Hi everyone, it's Darlene. Welcome back for card number 2 in my series One Stamp 4 Ways, where I'm using this beautiful Burst of Blooms Penny Black stamp. Here's the card I'm going to be creating today. I'm just highlighting part of this stamp. Here is the stamp. As you can see, it's really pretty. There's a lot you can do with it because it's drawn and there's lots to color. So what I'm going to do is position my flowers, this time from the top corner, onto some smoky slate cardstock by Stampin' Up. It's one of my favorite neutral colored cardstocks. I'm going to ink it up with some Versamark ink and stamp it down. Now this cardstock is cut to 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, so I cut off 1/8 on each side. Okay, so now I'm going to sprinkle this with some white embossing powder, and then I will heat it to set it. Now I'm also going to stamp this on some pink pirouette paper, and I'm really just concerned with that center flower, so I'm going to stamp that down and sprinkle it mostly just to cover that middle flower, because I'm going to cut it out and then I'll heat it to set it. Now I'm going to be using my Inktense watercolor pencils. I have the 72 count, but they have smaller boxes if you want to get a smaller one. I'm just using this one color. It's called Fuchsia. These pencils work fine on regular paper as well, so it doesn't have to be watercolor paper, although it is easier on watercolor paper. Now I'm going to color just the base of these petals, and you can see I'm putting quite a bit of pressure down, and I'm going to experiment with different amounts of pressure. So once I get a little bit in the bottom, I'm going to take my aqua painter and drop some water in where there is no color, and then move my brush toward the color and then pull it out to a little bit beyond those stitched lines at the edge of the petal. And so I'm going to pull this out, but you can see that because I put a lot of pressure on my pencil, you can see a little bit of the lines that I had drawn. I really didn't like it that much, so on this next petal I'm going to use less pressure. So I'm just going to color this little one here, and then moving on to the bigger one, you can see that I'm getting much lighter color because I'm not putting too much pressure down, and I'm kind of working a little bit more in circles than in lines. And now I'll take my water, and you'll see that it definitely is not quite as dark at the base, and the water or the color gets diluted pretty quickly because there's not as much color down on the paper. Now there's a couple of things you can do to make this darker at the bottom, and that is to pull directly from the tip of the pencil. This will not ruin your pencil at all, and it's a great way to get some more color in there without having to draw on the cardstock again. I'm going to do this same thing on these initial petals to kind of try to fill in the lines that you can see from where I drew with a lot of pressure. I've actually used this technique, pulling it from the pencil to the paper, for an entire background, and I had no problems with my pencil. So you don't have to worry about ruining the tip of your pencil by doing this. All right, I'm going to move on to the next petal, and I'm going to do the same thing with just light pressure. Apply the water, pull it out, and again it's going to be lighter than I really want. Another thing you can do is take your pencil and go directly to the paper again. Because the paper is wet, it's going to kind of slide around a little bit, which is kind of nice because it doesn't get into the grooves of the paper, so it kind of spreads the color out evenly. You can use any watercolor pencil for this technique. It doesn't have to be Inktense. You could also use distress markers, but you want to work a little bit faster. With the dry pencils, they don't start absorbing into the paper as soon as you put them down. Now I'm using pink pirouette paper, but you could just use white paper and just pull your color out. I just thought it'd be nice to have a pink base to start with. Okay, next step is to take my Zig black marker, and I'm just going to color in the edges just like I did last week with the first card in this series. And it's got a very, very fine tip, so it's really easy to get into these small corners. So I'm just going to go all the way around the outside. I'm going to color a little bit on the inside and then these little holes. I definitely learned my lesson from last time that where the pen has hit the embossed areas, it's going to stay wet, and I don't want it to smudge anywhere. So I'm just going to lay my tissue down and gently press all over the flower, so if there's any marker on top of those embossed areas, it'll come off. Next, I'm going to cut this flower out with a scissor, and I'm going to be careful to stay just on the outside of the white embossed line. And this flower doesn't have a lot of detail in it, so it's pretty easy to cut out. I'm using the Altenew UR set, and I'm using the UR Special because I'm pulling out kind of that special flower in the bouquet. And then I'm going to take my flower and add some Stampin' Up! Dimensionals, just some foam adhesive on the back, and just cover the whole thing and place it right on top of my smoky slate piece. And then I'll put some ATG tape runner on the back of this and adhere it to a Hero Arts note card that's black on the outside and white on the inside. And that completes the second card in this series. So really just focusing on one of the flowers in the bunch. I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you back here next week for card number 3. Thanks for watching.